is Roya Tagabi.
And I'm Rana Kalogli.
We are EndoMarch volunteer health reporters. We are here today with active members of the EndoMarch community, Chelsea Hardesty and Verity Kerr. Once again, it's very nice to meet you both. And thank you for taking the time to talk about your work and involvement with EndoMarch and your own campaigns regarding endometriosis.
So to start off, how did you both become involved with EndoMarch?
So I actually came across EndoMarch right around my diagnosis period when I was struggling to figure out what was going on with me. Once I got my diagnosis, I started messaging, and then I kind of became a representative and just started being more involved, little things here and there. I then started messaging more with Barbara Page, and we started comparing, notes, research papers, topics and discussions, and then she kind of offered me the title like a research assistant to kind of, since we've been discussing so much together and we're very fluid with our discussions, so that was very helpful as well. So that's kind of how I started, and then along the journey with them I stumbled upon Project 514-415 and I've kind of tagged her along with us. So
yeah, so you mentioned a little bit about prior to when we were messaging about getting the better of endometriosis and that work along with your own individual work with towards I guess advocating for EndoMarch and endometriosis in general. So if you want to talk more about that, that would be great.
Yeah, so along that journey as well, I also started getting the better of endometriosis. It began more of kind of like a blog, follow my journey aspect. But when I wanted to do more action and actual like advocacy, people weren't taking me seriously. So I kind of began the nonprofit starting. So last year in 2023, I kind of started finalizing that process. So here we are as a nonprofit today. Then teaming up with Worldwide EndoMarch last year in March, actually, I hosted a DC delegation, and I was joined with Holly with American End of Endo Project, and the founder of Emma Valentina, and then of course my husband, which is a board member for Getting the Better of Endometriosis. And we met with a handful of elected officials and basically not only gave them the rundown of updated awareness topics for endometriosis, but let them know like, hey, we need action. We're not just here to like let you know what this is. We are letting you know like we need action because we're not being helped properly. We are being delayed and held back from preventative care, and kind of basically laid it out because now we're having more of the awareness and everything up there, and now we just, what are we doing with this awareness? It's not going anywhere, and that action needs to go somewhere, and that is in the hands of the government at this point to be able to fulfill those actions. So we were requesting actions, and I let them know also of the petition that I developed to kind of call for a type of investigation with the Department of Justice, because there's definitely some things that can be held accountable by law if we run it that way as well. So I presented those petitions as well with all of those elected officials and basically let them know like this is like the last straw. Like if nothing else happens, then we're going into this investigation. So that's basically what we did in March of 2023. And since then, I've just kept up my communications, and then I discovered Project 514-415, and we're really pursuing that awareness at an international level. So in a very fun, unique way as well.
Yeah, I think it's wonderful and so important that you're trying to really make an effort so other women can get a diagnostic on time, and like exactly the government steps up and really like, what's the word? Just more people really need to know about endometriosis and to accept it because it truly is a thing, and more women need help.
Yeah, and the fact that we look at it as just like, oh, it's just this period and it's a bad period and it's normal. Like none of these things that have been labeled normal are normal. And we are prepared to break that down and show them just how misogynistic, if you will, the ideal behind endometriosis has become, which is causing that direct harm every day. And hopefully, like, doing this can like pave the way for other countries to request their government to take actions as well, you know. So that's kind of the goal with the worldwide aspect, international aspect, and teaming up with EndoMarch and Project 414 514-415 is to tackle that international aspect, to show it's not just in America, it's not just in the UK, it's
Everywhere.
everywhere.
Global.
Mhm.
So in terms of like action from the government, and specifically endometriosis policy, and our education, I know there are some countries who are pushing for the government to take action to make it a permanent part of education, you know, for young kids. What specific action or policy were you hoping that would be achieved?
So honestly, we are hoping to get all the way back into med schools and change what is being taught in med schools, because that's the root of the problem. We want to point all the eyes not just on the doctors that are doing the work right now, but where are they getting this knowledge and that work, and that's right down in the med school. So if we can focus the government's attention onto the med schools that they are funneling money into as well, you know, then maybe we can begin that change and light a fire there to begin changing how we think about the disease, what we know about the disease that's not 100 years old, that is now, you know, based off of updated and proper research. So that's step one. There's so many other breakdowns below that, but I think that's the biggest thing. And also the recognition as a disability with the ADA. So that's I think huge as well.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that as it being a disability, but you're absolutely right. It should be. And yeah, I think targeting med schools is also such a good idea, because how are we supposed to get more endometriosis specialists if, you know, it's
Who
not
aren't aware
taught?
about it and aren't taught.
Exactly.
Exactly.
They're being
Yeah.
taught the same thing, being funneled out, not knowing, hey, you might need to take some extra education on that if that's really what you're interested in. It's not this 35 minutes that we learned on it in med school.
Yeah, and if they're not taught about it, if it's not significantly acknowledged, of course, patients are going to go to them and they're going to be like, no, it's just a painful period. There's nothing else to it.
Yeah, it took me over 15 years to figure out. And I just turned 30 this year, so over half my life just to figure out what the heck was going on with me. And it's amazing to actually know now. So, and that's what I want. I don't want people to go most of their life not knowing and feeling basically insane. So, it needs to change.
Yes, exactly. And I know you had mentioned a little bit about Project 514-415. So I was hoping we could get a little bit of Verity's input on this project, and learn more about it.
Yeah, so Project 514-415 started up when I was basically diagnosed with endometriosis. So it took me nearly 20 years to get diagnosed. So my story, pretty much like before my period started, was that I had awful like stomach cramps and kind of like a flare up of like my bowel type thing. They kept saying it was appendicitis. And then I kept going in, they could say it wasn't appendicitis, kept coming out. And it's like, oh, you're just an anxious child and all of this. And then my period started and I'll be passed out, throwing up, wouldn't be able to move. And then that was from like the age of like 12, I think I started my period. And then all the time I kept going to A&E or going to the GP, it was always the same story. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just anxious. You don't know what period is. Just taking like painkillers. And then one GP actually scolded me and actually specifically said to me that I deal with sick people and you're wasting my time. And then I had a cyst, and then I was told it's just a tiny cyst. Like, don't worry about it. You can have it removed or don't have it removed. It's like clinically insignificant. Went to a private clinic in the end, so I didn't trust this guy. I needed to remove the cyst for me, and I just wanted a second opinion. And then he then said that I had grade 4 endometriosis and that I would probably need a stoma, and that it's going to be it could be life-changing basically. And I never even heard of endometriosis, didn't know what it was, and I literally just thought I was going in there for a cyst. And then so I was in London in the middle of lockdown, and I just literally just crying my eyes out because I was told I'd have to IVF, and so literally my whole future was taken away from me in front of my eyes. And I never wanted anyone to feel like that. And then when I got home, I started researching things. I realised that the information was there. So all the signs and symptoms I had were textbook, and they were all there, and it didn't have to get as bad as it got. And I just feel there's some way that this information has to get out there to people who aren't in the community. And then so it's very well that the information is being there when you're in a community or when you have a special interest in the condition. But the issue is that it's not being funneled through. And then so it needs to go to like basically the boys, and it needs to go to the girls who are in primary school or who are in secondary school, and it needs to go directly to society, because they are the policymakers. They're going to be the future doctors, they're going to be the future politicians, they're going to be your future bosses, they're your sons, they're going to be your husbands and all this, your friends. And so that's where the information needs to go. And then so that's why I kind of came up with Project 514415, in the sense that I wanted it that people can share their stories. So actually have it that they share artwork, share literature works, share short stories, and it can be anything about their journey. So it's been a massive variety of work that we've had about 160 people submitted into the project. And from that, the youngest person we've had is, I think she was 12 or 13 when she submitted, and she's been diagnosed with endometriosis, and she's the 6th generation person who's got endometriosis. And then the eldest is in their 80s, and she still has issues with endometriosis. So even though she's gone through menopause, she was also told, oh, you know, as soon as you go through menopause, you'll be fine, there'll be nothing wrong with you. But she still now has loads of issues with endometriosis, and her symptoms haven't eased up at all, and she struggles to get help. So it's been a massive variety. And then we've had a few friends. I've had a partner submit, and also we've had people up from the trans community submit as well who have endometriosis, and they've actually been denied care, which is awful. So there's one very heartbreaking story that I read from somebody from the trans community, and they were specifically told from their gynecologist that they don't operate on trans people, which is awful. And then they then said, we can give it a go. And then I was then basically discharged immediately after, because I was told they removed the endometriosis, where that on progesterone, there is never going to be a problem now. It's not going to be endometriosis, because they're on hormone blockers so the estrogen shouldn't be growing anymore. And then so they're now bouncing around the NHS and bouncing around to try to find help. But there's been a variety of stories, but then all the time it seems to be underlining that everybody's always getting ignored, everybody's always getting gaslighted, and everybody's always been told that there's nothing wrong with them. And then sometimes it becomes to the dangerous end that we're left for that 20-30 year period. And within all the stories I've had, everybody who's been left that long, who's been over like the 15-20 years, it does seem to be that it's gone into the bowel, it's gone into like the breastfeed system. So there's one lady where she's got it in her heart and they can't remove it, so they're too scared to remove it. So she's says that she's concerned every single day that she's going to have a heart attack one day because of the endometriosis. So yeah, so it's a massive concern. And then so I wanted to do something about it, and I wanted to just do something different as well. So it's also these things that I wanted to have it that I think that if you have everyone as a collective and actually show everybody's story and actually show that everybody as a somebody and show everybody as a personality, it can sometimes draw you in or make you relate to somebody than it being that there's like this many people, if that makes sense, like in a research paper. And then one thing we have found though is that everybody who's submitted this project, it doesn't correlate with the research. So obviously the research is like 1 in 10, you're meant to be diagnosed for 8 years. The only people who are diagnosed 8 years are normally the people who get diagnosed quite young, and they're the people that normally have it that it's on their like on the ovaries or it's on the womb, and then so you can clearly see it. Mm-hmm. And then everybody else who it's been a lot longer, it tends to be that it's maybe starts on their bowel, they have like bowel issues or bowel symptoms beforehand, or it's more respiratory to begin with. And then they seem to be the people that it takes a lot longer for it to be diagnosed, because it's not this reproductive thing, if that makes sense. So yeah, so then what we've had to do, because we wanted to have like kind of facts and figures of endometriosis, but everything we found, as I say, it's not correlating to the 160 people that we've had to submit and their stories. So we've done our own questionnaire, and then just ask them basically like, how long did it take you to get diagnosed, like what were your symptoms, where is your endometriosis, and then just so that we can say like, in this book, this is our summary of this, but it doesn't correlate with the research, which is this is the current research. So yeah, and also coming from a medical background, because again, I come on this fence that I am very artistic, but at the same time I am a trained physiotherapist. I've worked in the NHS, and I've worked within pain management, or like pain patients within MSK, and so again with that, it was very interesting going through that journey, because when I was going through working with chronic pain patients, I had the same thing. I was diagnosed with endometriosis, and then there's a very miscommunication, or it's just fact, I think it's more the fact that we don't get taught about women's health. We don't, again, like all healthcare is healthcare for men. So when we're at university, all we get taught is like all the research is based on men only, which I know it's all coming through with heart attacks and strokes and things like that, that women are worse off, even with medication, that women are worse off with medication, because it's all been the research has all been conducted on men only. And then so that was very prominent again through when I was working with patients, in the sense that I'd have some females come in and I'd be very much like, you have endometriosis, I think you have endometriosis, these are signs and symptoms. And then some of these patients, they would have been through pain clinic, they would have been like bounced around A&E, bounced around like having injections and things like that for back pain or hip pain and things like this. And then they then come back around again, because it's kind of going around this loop constantly. And then when they come to me, I go, oh, like, you know, like, how are your periods? Does this pain get worse on your period, on your cycle? And then even bringing up like the Endo UK website or the NHS website, go, are any of these your symptoms? And then I had at least 6 patients who were like, yeah, they're my symptoms. And then they then go to their GP, like try to get in to see a specialist, and then a lot of them have actually been diagnosed with endometriosis when they came back to me, which is sad, because it's the fact that these things should be picked up at first contact, or if more healthcare providers like OTs, physiotherapists, even psychologists, where I know I've seen a few people who've stated that they've been wrongly accused of having mental health problems through when it wasn't endometriosis, and they've ended up seeing psychologists or being put on antipsychotic drugs, or kind of being put on mental health drugs. But if all healthcare providers were trained within women's health and actually understood signs and symptoms of what is healthy and what isn't healthy, then a lot of us wouldn't have gone through the journey, would have gone through, and would have been able to have help a lot quicker or a lot sooner. So yeah, it's been an interesting ride, and it's been heartbreaking as well, actually, reading every story. So it's a thing that you know that what the story is going to come, and it's, I think the heartbreaking thing is that every story is the same, and everybody's gone through a horrendous story. And then some of them who are quite young, who got diagnosed quite young. So there's one person who me and Chelsea knows that she got diagnosed when she was like 13 or 14, and then they decided that it would be a good idea to stop her period. So they've stopped her periods with like that menopausal drug, and then she now might not be able to have children, so she's now in her early 20s. And I was like, oh, this must be amazing being diagnosed quite young, because you know you can plan now, like if you want children, you can like freeze your eggs now, you can get like embryos, frozen embryos, you know, so that's a good backup plan, so you never have to worry, you can have like a good like 30-40 embryos like banked. And she's like, no, like they put me on these drugs at 13, 14, and I now, they don't know if my ovaries work, they're not functioning as they should, they didn't grow, which it's heartbreaking. It just means that so much more research has to be done. But I think we need research going back to the basics of actually understanding what it is and what we know about it. So even today, so I'm meant to go through respiratory surgery soon, because I'm having a lot of issues with my breathing, and they think that I've got endometriosis on my diaphragm and my lungs. And then so I'm having surgery for that soon. And I ended up speaking to my surgeon's like right hand man, like he's T1 doctor who's training with him. And then it's kind of obvious that he just read a journal just before he got on the phone to me, because he didn't realise that I don't think he didn't know anything about endometriosis that came across that way. And he then said to me that, or his belief to me was that endometriosis, because there's a hole in my womb, and then the cells have fallen out my womb and they've grown around my body and they've gone into a hole in my diaphragm. And I was in disbelief. I think I got phoned to Chelsea and I was like, this guy is ridiculous. And he's such a lovely guy as well. Like, he's very nice, professional, but he had no idea. It's obviously that he read this journal and then he's just quoting off these facts to me, like, oh, 20% of patients, it never comes up in the MRI. Like, when you have these symptoms, though, it's really severe. So we want to get in there because, like, you're struggling with your breathing, you're really struggling with, you know, like with fatigue, and like I'm having like those nosebleeds. So he's like, he listened to all my symptoms, he did everything right. But then he's read this journal, he's had this information, then he's incorrect. So now his belief is that we've got endometriosis or endometrium cells, like the womb lining cells, just floating around our body because they've fallen out of a hole. And it's then obviously he's saying this to other endometriosis patients, and this is his belief. And yeah, so it's quite stressful, the phone call, but at the same time, I guess I had that extra layer of education, but it's a layer that he should have had. But it's at the same time, it's not their fault, in the sense that they never taught these things in university. And again, every medical profession we see, all they've got taught is how to deal with a man, or how to deal with men's health or male's health. And so there's a massive change that needs to happen, with not just in endometriosis, but within the whole women's health. And then, but it's the fact that if we can keep pushing for change from each angle and all come together and collaborate, then hopefully be able to make a change across the board. But it's going to take decades, or if not centuries, to catch up with where men's health is, for women's and men's health to be equal. But I think it's just, if we more had understanding that if healthcare professionals can say, actually, we don't know, or actually we know there's this big gap in our knowledge, and I think they need to look at us more, that when they treat another, they have to have the understanding that they don't know how to treat a woman, they don't have that knowledge, and science doesn't have that knowledge yet, and they're basing us on a man and not on a female. So I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned, a lot of understandings. I think a lot of egos, because sometimes it's more of an ego thing, isn't it, that they go, I've done all this university training, I've done all this knowledge, and I've like dedicated my whole life to this set pathway, and I think it's very hard for them to then realize, say, well, you have, but it's biased knowledge, or you're running on without realizing it's sexist knowledge, because you're still running on like the whole thing of like hysteria, or the whole thing of like like the whole like, old age of how women were perceived centuries ago is still very much in society today.
Yeah, I completely agree. Reform does need to occur within women's health and within the medical industry. And I believe using art as an outlook for people to express their pain and similarities they've kind of gone through, or also differences, is a great way for people in the endometriosis community to speak out. And you said it's something unique. It's a different way to share your message. And if you would like me to share the art now, that has been submitted to Project 415-514-415.
Yeah, so what we've given you is a selection. So it's not all our art pieces. We've got a selective, I think it's 14 or 15 pieces we've selected out, and we all voted within the team. We voted for pieces that we thought would be suitable for all audiences. There's pieces that we would assume would be suitable for like 3-4-year-olds up to like 19. They shouldn't offend anybody. And then alongside them all, they've got a fact of endometriosis. So again, so it's just to try to debunk all the misconceptions of endometriosis, just try to get out real life information. So it's just even the fact that even if a teacher or a professor or a doctor even sees it, then hopefully that one fact might just stay in their heads. Then if they do see an endometriosis patient, or if they have a student who's got endometriosis, hopefully that one fact might stay in their head, and then they'll be a bit more aware of it, and then hopefully they'll even then look at the whole range of our posters. So with these posters, we've created them for them to be shared across the world, and it's just that anyone can download them from Buy Me a Copy. So we can send you the link to share, and then they can just download the posters, and it's just for basically you to share them like around the community, around your college, work, wherever, basically, and just be free with them. And it's just to try to get like the message out there as much as possible, to share the lived experiences. So it's also kind of like a little snapshot as well, what will be in the coffee table book. and then hopefully as time goes on we raise more money and raise more funding, that we can then have like an exhibition up and running. So I know Chelsea's working for one in DC, and then we want to run one in Scotland and in London. So yes, it's obviously all about funding as well, but it's just going to be a little snapshot of what you'll see there. And then obviously quite a lot of the work, some of it's quite graphic or some of it's quite dark, so we've had to keep that away. So we'd have to have that in set trigger point warnings in the book as well. We're going to have like each page is going to have like a profile of the person, and then on that profile it say whether it's a trigger warning piece or not. So if people obviously, if there's something with miscarriage, or if there's self-harm, like some things like this comes up, or being wrongly diagnosed with like mental health, or being like institutionalized with mental health when they didn't have these problems, that can be quite triggering if someone's going through that, just gone through it themselves. So it's the fact that we're making sure that everybody's trying to be as protected as possible. So on the profile, we can send you a link to the profile actually, so you can look at the profile, but it just shows the country they come from, and then it just has like their picture, and then we want to link everybody to their own story and their journey as well. So artists have submitted, or writers and things like that, you can just go directly to the Instagram page of their website, so you can look more into them as well. So we try to have it that it's a collaborative affair. That's basically that it's the endometriosis story, I guess, from the community, and we're just the gatekeepers of this book, or we're the gatekeepers of this project that is open to the full community. So we try to have it that it's involving everybody in the community, so around the world.
I will screen share now. Those are definitely beautiful pieces of work, and it's a great cause. And I think, again, it's an amazing outlet for people to show their experiences and what they've gone through art.
I like how specifically in this campaign, there's a lot of campaigns, that try to raise awareness and share information about endometriosis, but I like that this artwork sort of elicits emotion, almost like you feel like you're in pain too, watching or looking at the photos. So I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, one of the main things I wanted that it caused a few heated discussions in our group is that I was like, I very much want it to be just the artwork, and then I was like, no, it has to be endometriosis as well. And so I know there's like lots of like kind of to and fro-ing and things like that, and I think we managed to settle on a impactful post. Last time the first post I did was very much just all art, and everybody was like, no, it needs to be a bit less art. And so it's the fact that I really wanted to make sure that no one's work is changed, so that's their voice. I see that their artwork is their voice, but also the submission guidelines we have for project 514-415, which is still open. So why we still watch fundraising, and why we've still got pages left in our book. We want to get as many stories and journeys in as possible, but it's open to interpretation. So it means that you can do anything to do with your journey. So whether that's good, whether that's bad, whether it's something awful that's happened, whether it's a reflection, whether it's something you're going through now, it's open. So we did have a few emails, people being like, tell me what you want, or like, how do we start? It's like, you've got 5 pieces, maybe just pick a section, like just do anything you want. And it's been, every piece is so different. Because again, I think sometimes when you go to exhibitions and they ask for submissions of things, you can go around and you can pretty much see the same thing over and over and over again, or you can see very similar. You can see definitely what the brief was, but the brief is just endometriosis, like just what is it to you. And so that's the most important thing, and that's how it's just, I think it's just so magical. Like, I can't wait to share the whole collection with the world, basically, because every piece is just so different and every piece is so unique to the person. And it's also, it shows their culture, because again, we've got I think about 9 different countries at the moment, and then you can see like different cultures or their different cultural ties in with it, and like different ethnicities flying in throughout the work. So we've got one work and they've got Arabic writing in it, and then yeah, so it's beautiful. There's not on the Arabic writer's not on these posters. We've got I need to get better pictures of it, so I haven't been able to add it into this one. But it's a lady who she's reflecting on mindfulness. So her journey is very positive. And then so she said that how she overcame endometriosis was through her religion and through her culture and mindfulness, and all her artwork has been kind of like mindfulness collages and pictures and paintings and things like that, with like all hope and stuff, which is beautiful, and that's stunning. So I think it's just it's beautiful how Lorraine, how it's literally just exploded like fireworks, and they've all gone in different directions. So I can't wait to share it with everybody, and for Chelsea to get out to America. And yeah, we've got a lady in Australia who's going to be sharing in Australia, and then also in Norway. We're working on Norway as well, so it's exciting to hopefully can go worldwide.
So once this,
sorry,
I just had one question. Once this collection is complete and ready, how can people access it?
So we're going to have it this return to a coffee table book. So we're still just need to raise a few more funds for that at the moment, because it's the copyright service costing quite a lot of money. So we want to do it properly and professionally. So yeah, so we just want to make sure that whoever buys it, it's done to a really high standard and everything's in the right place. So yeah, so it will be available on Amazon. So the copyright service, I'm going through who they'll spell check it, do all the like the graphics, and make sure everything's in the right place, and make sure that all the pictures will print out at really high quality, and they'll be able to change things that needs to be changed and things like that. They will put it on Amazon, and this the book will be available worldwide on Amazon. They also said that we can bulk buy the books. So then, say for example, if like an organization wants to sell the books, then they can like bulk buy them and then sell them and like raise profits for their own endometriosis charity. So that's another thing, is that we want it to be again like a gift to people, that also that it can be the gift that keeps on giving, that is sharing the lived experience of endometriosis, and then hopefully can be an educational tool towards university students, or like even just the up and coming generation, but also the fact that it can then also be used as a product to raise money and funds for endometriosis charities, or for like women's health charities and things like that.
We can't wait to hear what you both accomplish in the future and your efforts in raising awareness around such an important issue. Before we end, are there any last words that you both would like to share?
No, just thank you for having us.
Yes. Well, thank you for meeting with us. Thank you for your time, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Kamran Nejad. I would like to welcome all of you to this second webinar that we have. I am the founder of Worldwide EndoMarch and Endometriosis Day.